People who are comfortable being unnoticed experience visibility very differently. While others crave attention, recognition, and the spotlight, they fade into the background by choice, not because they're shy, but because they've discovered something most people are terrified of. They're the ones who sit in the back of the room, who don't speak up in meetings unless they have something valuable to say, who can disappear from a party without anyone noticing, who don't post for weeks and don't feel anxious about it. And while everyone else is fighting to be seen, they're perfectly content being invisible. But here's what nobody understands about why they're like this, and the psychology behind it. It's far more complex than anyone realizes. People who are comfortable being unnoticed aren't lacking confidence. They're free from something that enslaves everyone else. And here's what changed everything for me. I spent years trying to be noticed. I'd speak up in every meeting, even when I had nothing to add. I'd position myself in photos where I'd be most visible. I'd craft social media posts designed for maximum engagement. I was exhausted, constantly managing my visibility, constantly ensuring people remembered I existed. Then I watched someone at a party. She was standing in the corner, observing, not on her phone, not fidgeting, and when someone tried to pull her into the center of attention, she politely declined and stayed exactly where she was. And I realized something that terrified me. She wasn't afraid of being unnoticed. She preferred it. But here's the part that breaks most people's understanding. She wasn't avoiding people. She wasn't antisocial. She just didn't need to be seen to feel like she mattered. And once you understand that psychology, everything about human behavior starts to make sense. They've realized that being noticed comes with a cost they're not willing to pay. And this is where it gets dark. Most people think visibility is always good. More eyes on you means more opportunities, more connection, more value. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed have done the math differently. Here's what nobody tells you. Every moment you're noticed, you're being judged. Every time you're visible, you're being evaluated. Every second you're in the spotlight, someone is forming an opinion about you that you can't control. And here's the part that changes everything. People who are comfortable being unnoticed have decided that their peace is worth more than being seen. But here's what this looks like in real life. Think about social media. Most people post constantly because they need proof that they exist. They need the likes, the comments, the validation that they matter. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed, they'll go weeks without posting and feel absolutely nothing. And here's what's fascinating. They're not avoiding social media because they're insecure. They're avoiding it because they're secure. They don't need an audience to confirm their existence because they've learned something most people never will. Being noticed doesn't make you more real. It just makes you more visible. And visibility comes with a price tag most people don't read until it's too late. They've discovered that the background is where real power lives. Every room has two types of people, those in the spotlight and those observing from the edges. Most people assume the power is in the center, but people who are comfortable being unnoticed know better. And here's why this is revolutionary. When you're in the spotlight, you're performing. You're managing how you're perceived. You're playing a role. But when you're in the background, you're free to actually observe, to think, to see what everyone else is too busy performing to notice. And here's a story that'll make this click. I had a manager who rarely spoke in meetings. People assumed he wasn't engaged. But here's what they missed. He was listening to everything, reading every dynamic, noticing every tension. And when he did speak, it was so precise and valuable that everyone stopped to listen. One day I asked him why he didn't speak more. His answer changed how I saw everything. People who talk the most say the least. I'd rather understand what's actually happening than perform knowledge I don't have. And that's when I understood. Being unnoticed isn't weakness, it's strategic. But here's what makes this powerful. When you're comfortable being unnoticed, you see things others miss. You understand dynamics that people in the spotlight are too busy managing their image to perceive. You have information that makes you dangerous in the best way. Because while everyone else is performing, you're learning. And knowledge is always more powerful than attention. They've accepted that most recognition is shallow and meaningless anyway. This is what breaks people's brains. Most people chase recognition like it's oxygen. They need to be acknowledged, praised, remembered. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed have seen through that illusion. And here's what they realized. Most recognition is performative. Someone compliments you not because they genuinely admire you, but because it makes them look good. Someone acknowledges you not because you matter to them, but because social norms demand it. But here's what this looks like in practice. You post about an achievement. 50 people congratulate you. How many of those 50 actually care? How many would help you if you needed it? How many could tell you 3 real things about your life? And here's the part that's devastating. People who are comfortable being unnoticed have done that calculation. And they've realized that shallow recognition from people who don't actually know you is worse than being unnoticed by people who do. But here's where it gets even deeper. There's something incredibly freeing about being unnoticed. No one's watching you. No one's waiting for you to fail. No one's comparing you to others. You just get to exist without the weight of everyone's expectations. And here's the twist. When you're unnoticed, the recognition you do get is real. Because the only people who notice you are the ones paying attention. And those are the people whose opinions actually matter. Because quality of attention will always beat quantity of recognition. They've learned that being comfortable in silence is a superpower most people don't have. Here's something most people never realize. The reason people can't be comfortable being unnoticed is because they can't be comfortable in silence, with themselves, in their own mind. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed, they've made peace with their internal world. They don't need external stimulation to feel okay. They don't need constant validation to feel secure. They can sit in a room alone with their thoughts and not feel like they're dying. And here's what that looks like. Most people at a party are constantly scanning the room, making sure they're included, making sure they're noticed, making sure they're not being left out. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed, they're perfectly fine standing in a corner watching. And here's what's wild. They're not miserable doing this. They're genuinely content observing. Because they've learned something revolutionary. You don't have to be part of everything to feel like you're part of something. But here's where it gets painful for most people. When you're comfortable being unnoticed, some people will call you boring, antisocial, weird. They'll try to pull you into the center. And when you resist, they'll take it personally. But here's what people who are comfortable being unnoticed understand. Someone else's discomfort with your comfort isn't your problem to solve. You're not responsible for making others feel better about the fact that you don't need what they need. And that boundary, that's where real freedom lives. They've realized that the most interesting people are often the most unnoticed. This is the part that flips everything. Society tells us that interesting people are loud, visible, unavoidable. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed know the truth. The most interesting people are usually the quietest. And here's why. People who need to be noticed are performing a version of themselves designed for consumption. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed, they're just being themselves. And that authenticity makes them infinitely more interesting to anyone paying real attention. But here's what this looks like in real life. Think about the people you actually respect. The ones whose opinion you value, whose presence you genuinely enjoy. How many of them are the loudest in the room? How many of them need constant attention? Probably very few. And here's what's fascinating. The people who are comfortable being unnoticed often have the richest internal worlds. They read more, think more, create more. Not for an audience, for themselves. And that depth is magnetic to anyone with depth themselves. But here's the cost that most people aren't willing to pay. When you're comfortable being unnoticed, you miss out on surface-level connections, the kind that feel good in the moment, but mean nothing long-term. You miss out on shallow recognition, the kind that feeds the ego but starves the soul. And people who are comfortable being unnoticed have accepted that trade, because they'd rather have 3 people who actually know them than 300 who recognize their face. Because depth always beats breadth. Always. They've discovered that being unnoticed is the ultimate form of freedom. Here's what changes everything. Most people think freedom is having more attention, more recognition, more visibility. But people who are comfortable being unnoticed have realized something revolutionary. Freedom is needing less. And here's the difference. When you need to be noticed, you're trapped by others' opinions, trapped by the constant performance, trapped by the fear of being forgotten. But when you're comfortable being unnoticed, you're free. Free to do what you want without worrying about how it looks. Free to fail without an audience. Free to succeed without having to prove it. Free to exist without justification. But here's what this means in practice. People who are comfortable being unnoticed can take risks others can't. They can experiment, fail, try again, without the weight of everyone watching. They can change directions without having to explain themselves. They can be inconsistent without being judged for it. And here's the part that's revolutionary. When you're comfortable being unnoticed, you become immune to cancel culture, public opinion, and social pressure. Because you were never performing for the public in the first place. But here's what nobody prepares you for. This kind of freedom is lonely sometimes, because most people can't understand it. They think you're hiding, missing out, wasting potential. They'll try to push you into the spotlight, because they assume everyone wants what they want. And people who are comfortable being unnoticed have learned to let those people be confused. Because explaining it never works. You either get it or you don't. The psychology of people who are comfortable being unnoticed isn't about fear, shyness, or lack of ambition. It's about profound self-knowledge. It's about knowing that your value doesn't increase with visibility, that your life doesn't get better just because more people know about it, that sometimes the best way to live is quietly, deeply, authentically. They're not missing out. They're not hiding. They're not less than people who shine brighter, speak louder, or take up more space. They've just found something most people are too scared to look for. They've found themselves, and they've decided that's enough. And here's what most people will never understand. That decision takes more courage than performing ever could, because it means choosing yourself over validation, peace over recognition, depth over breadth. So if you're someone who's comfortable being unnoticed, know this: you're not broken, you're not antisocial, you're not wasting potential. You've just discovered that visibility and value aren't the same thing, that being seen and being known aren't the same thing, that attention and fulfillment aren't the same thing. The world will keep telling you that you need to be more visible, more vocal, more present, but you know better. You know that the best life isn't always the most noticed one. It's the one that's most true to who you actually are, and you've already found that, and that's enough. Are you someone who's comfortable being unnoticed? Drop a comment and share why you prefer the background. If this resonated, hit subscribe. We explore the psychology of people who live outside the mainstream. And drop a like if you're tired of being told you need to be more visible. You don't need to be seen to matter. You already do.